Hi, I'm Seb Henbest with Bloomberg New Energy Finance here in Paris, COP21 at the Climate Summit for Local Leaders. And I'm joined by Marianne Hitt. You are the campaign director for the Beyond Coal campaign at the Sierra Club.
Yes, I am.
So what are you doing here at COP?
I'm not a mayor, I'm not a diplomat, but I am leading a grassroots powerhouse of a campaign that has stopped the construction of 184 new coal plants in the U.S. It has won the retirement of 206 existing coal plants in the U.S., and we are replacing most of that coal power with clean, renewable energy. So we are driving huge changes, not just in how we make electricity in America, but we are creating the political space for the U.S. to lead here in these negotiations, because the coal industry is no longer so politically powerful, and clean energy is now a big part of our economy.
So I want to touch on two things. One is the grassroots nature, and the other is the political power and the political influence of the coal industry. Let's start with the second one first and say, what do you mean? I mean, surely there's a few coal-fired power stations that have closed, there's lots of old ones. How does that translate into less political influence?
Well, we were getting 50% of our electricity from coal in the US about 10 years ago when we tried to pass climate legislation. And we ultimately failed to pass that climate legislation in large part because we had senators from states that weren't mining coal, but they were using a lot of coal for their electricity, and they were worried about changes making their electricity prices go up. Now we're getting about 35% of our power from coal. And so a lot of states, especially in the Midwest where it's very windy, they have a lot of wind power, they're no longer feeling this political pressure from the coal industry because they're now enjoying all the benefits of clean energy. And so in a country where to get bills through our legislature, we've got to get those key states. We have more and more states going on to the clean energy side of the ledger and not feeling beholden to the coal industry. And that has also created space for President Obama to put forward the Clean Power Plan because the coal industry is no longer able to block the Clean Power Plan, which is our big contribution here at the Paris negotiation. So it has really dramatically and fundamentally shifted the politics in the U.S.
And the political space that leaves, is the renewable energy industry stepping into that, or is there a bit of a vacuum in terms of energy influence in the halls of power as a result of this?
It's fascinating. It is the most exciting time probably in a century to be working on these issues because everything is disrupted. And so we do have natural gas coming in to fill some of the gap, which the Sierra Club is not a fan of because of the environmental and climate impacts. But we also have huge gains in wind and solar. Storage is starting to gain some traction. And the next 5 years, it's a race to the finish line, and solar and wind are going to get a big part of the pie.
So let's go on to the second issue, which was about the grassroots nature of this. I would have thought that closing coal-fired power stations is a fairly top-down activity. They're big pieces of infrastructure. What's actually going on, and why is that relevant to cities?
Well, one thing that's fascinating about energy, at least in the U.S., is, we know the biggest source of climate pollution. It's coal-fired power plants. They have names, they have addresses, we know where they are, and the decisions that are made about whether they run or they retire are made at the state and local level. They are not made in the Congress. They are largely not made by the White House. And so we have to have people on the ground in those communities who are, A, doing the grassroots organizing and agitating about air pollution and water pollution, who are, B, in the policy arenas like the state legislatures and the governor's offices, and then C, they're in the regulatory proceedings where things get decided about people's rates, about energy prices, about what the future energy mix is going to be in a state. So we have to have the organizing muscle, the lobbying muscle, and the legal and expert muscle in the states, and that's how we have won those campaigns to secure retirement of 206 coal plants. That's about a third of the coal plants in the U.S., and our goal for 2017 is to get half of the coal plants in the U.S. announced for retirement and have enough clean renewable energy coming in to replace that coal power.
So final question. The vibe around COP21 here in Paris seems to be pretty buoyant. I mean, everyone's enthusiastic and feeling like we're heading in the right direction, particularly at that local level. What is the difference, do you think, between this event and this summit and the ones that have gone before? Is it all about this grassroots momentum?
I think a big part of the optimism, the momentum here comes, at least from the perspective of the U.S., comes from the fact that because we reduced the political influence, the political chokehold really of the coal industry, because we now have this very vibrant and emergent and thriving clean energy industry. That created the space for President Obama to put forward the Clean Power Plan, which in turn helped get China to the table. It's why the US is coming here and leading and putting big carbon reductions on the table. And so I think it's two things. One is that the US is leading, and from the perspective of those of us in the States, that is thrilling and it's a relief and it's invigorating. But the other is, I think grassroots folks feel like they own that. It wasn't just President Obama woke up one day and said, I really need to do the right thing for my kids. We feel like we retired coal plants, we pushed him there, we created the space for him, and now he's running with it. And so I think we all feel collectively like we own the momentum that we feel here in Paris.
We're out of time. Marianne Hitt, great to talk to you. It's really interesting developments.
It was great to be with you. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.